Now from CBS 4 My TV 33 studios, this is Focus on South Florida.
Good Sunday morning, everyone, and welcome to Focus on South Florida. Here we examine the issues behind the pulse of our community and put them into perspective. I'm CBS 4's Rudabeh Shabazi. We begin this morning with a focus on a growing problem here in our own neighborhoods, in our state, and in our nation. Opioid addiction is a crisis. People hooked on the drugs are dying on a daily basis. Governor Rick Scott recently signed into law a bill designed to fight the problem. Among other things, it places limits on opioid prescriptions doctors can write. Joining me at the round table this morning is Susan Glasscock. Susan is the CEO of House of Hope, Broward County's largest and longest-serving provider to treat substance abuse. And also please welcome Hendrixs Briggs, who is currently in House of Hope's residential rehabilitation program. I'm so glad you could join us. Thank you for coming.
Good morning.
So, Hendrixs, let's start with you, and why don't you just kind of tell us your story, because like so many people, you were originally prescribed opioids, right, by a doctor?
Yes, I was. I was given them when I was 16 for a tonsillectomy, and slowly but surely I was like, these make me feel amazing. And when I turned 18, I transitioned into IV heroin. So over the last 8 years, I've been feeling like an outcast. I've always felt not like anybody else, and heroin was the one thing that actually numbed my brain enough to like keep the emotions from my childhood abuse and all that out. And like so after 8 years of struggling with addiction, I finally gained the validation from my family. I just received a letter from my mom saying that you are the kid that taught me how to be a mom.
Wow.
Yeah. So what sobriety will do to you after struggling with addiction for so long, it feels amazing to actually have my family back, to have a clear head. I'm pursuing my education, and like the House of Hope, it's doing great things for me. I'm required to get my GED. I can go and get my ServSafe certification. I'm just applied for FAFSA. I'm doing all the things that I've wanted to do.
That's an amazing success story, an amazing turnaround, and you have so much potential. I'm so glad you're exercising all of that and you found your path. And I think it just shows that this is a crisis that affects every gender, every orientation, every nationality, every socioeconomic status. Why is there such an explosion? Has it been there all along, or is this something that we're just now noticing?
Well, I think it's been there, but there's been an explosion of late. Certainly, the numbers of people who have become addicted and the deaths have increased multifold. I mean, probably 4 times what they were years ago, the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. The issue that we have is that probably 2 people die each day in Broward County from addiction.
In Broward County alone.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. So one of the things that we try to do is to offer hope and healing for people to take a different path. And I think it's important that you're able to reach a wide range of people and to be able to offer a multitude of different services so you can find what fits. But next week he's taking his final test for the GED.
Well, congratulations.
So he'll be walking this year. So we're very excited about
Thank
that.
you.
That's amazing.
Personally, I've died 12 times from the opioid crisis, from heroin, and I'm still walking and still able to talk, and I'm still pursuing my goals. So, I mean, if it wasn't for the Narcan treatment and for the government actually fighting the opioid epidemic, I wouldn't be standing. If Narcan wouldn't have came out, I would be dead right now.
Yeah, there's so many other stories that have not ended in the same way that yours is turning out to be, and you have hope now for the future.
I have a great amount of hope.
What are your plans when you were completed treatment and you walk the stage and get your GED? What are your plans for the future?
When I complete the House of Hope and when I graduate from my GED, I'm going to move into a halfway house to take the next step down into my recovery and pursue outpatient treatment and continue going to AA and NA meetings to further pursue a long-term sobriety. I'm going to continue contact with my family and find beneficial people into my life, so I can live a beneficial life instead of just degrading myself. I'm going to pursue my education at Broward College for social work, so I can eventually work into the addiction field, so I can share my story to others. Yeah,
that's wonderful. One of the aspects about addiction that is often overlooked is the mental illness component, and so often they go hand in hand. But the mental illness component is often overlooked. But you focus a lot on that at House of Hope, right?
We work with people who have both issues, and most of the time, or frequently, people will be using some kind of substance to help self-medicate with a mental health issue. So by addressing both the issues at the same time, you're better equipped to figure out what issues you have and how to move forward from that. And if that doesn't take place, long-term success isn't that likely.
And obviously you're doing amazing work there, but do you think in general the population in Florida, and I guess in America overall, is getting the help they need when it comes to kind of intervention and mental health help?
Well, I think that there's always a need for more. I mean, we watch different things that happen on television where you see mental health patients who have not been helped and gotten what they needed. I think the biggest issue we have to do is we have to do some more prevention on the other side. I think that currently there's not a lot of prevention that takes place in the schools. And I think that when people think about somebody who's involved in heroin, they think of somebody who's more of a crackhead or a heroin addict, whereas 75% of those people started out with a prescription opioid. And I think when people realize that, it could be anybody sitting in that seat. And that's what we have to let people know at a very young age. And I think we have to do more prevention.
And I think that is coming to light a little bit more now that people are seeing people from all walks of life affected by this crisis. Recently, Governor Rick Scott signed into law, and the Florida legislature signed into law an act which would prohibit some of the prescriptions and also require physicians to use a statewide database. Do you think that that's a step in the right direction, and do you think that's enough?
Well, I think it's a step in the right direction because research shows that once you go past the third day on an opioid, then each day it increases the likelihood of you becoming addicted. Once you get past 6 days, it really shoots up quite high. So I think this is a start, and I think the database certainly makes sense. I think it's a multi-pronged approach that has to happen. We have to do a lot in terms of prevention because I think whenever we say 75% of the people who are on heroin started with an opioid, everyone seems shocked by that fact because you think of street drugs. So the problem is we talk about different drugs being gateway drugs, but an opioid prescription has proven to be that.
And that was what, I mean, obviously you trusted your doctor to give you what you needed to help you heal, right? And the next thing you knew, it just collapsed.
Yeah, I mean, like Sue just said, after 3 or 4 days, I started noticing that my tolerance was already building to the drug, and at the time, I still had a clear enough head to be like, okay, I need to stop taking these. But then a couple years down the line, I was introduced to heroin, and I remembered how good those Vicodin felt. And it was off to the races.
Well, we appreciate you telling your story. I know it's a very brave thing to do, and thank you for all of your help and all you're doing for people who are affected by this crisis. It was good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Okay, we'll be right back.